Living in harmony is possible if you know your emotions and how to handle them. Dr. Carmen Roman will share with you in an engaging way the current psychology by sharing herself or interviewing experts who will inspire you. Learn how to live a life of fullness and how to recover your emotional harmony with Dr. Roman. Welcome to Emotions in Harmony.
Hola, amigos. How are you, amigos in harmony? I am so happy. You cannot see me, but I am jumping. My heart is jumping of happiness because we have Melvin Varghese, a person that I admire so much. And sometimes it's very easy to admire somebody in one side of their life and another not so much. So when you admire somebody professionally, not always translating to personally or vice versa. This time, the reason I have trust with this topic to Melvin is because I admire him so much in the professional life, but also I admire him so much in his personal life, whatever he shares from his personal, and particularly his dedication to his family and balancing with the heavy work that he does. That's not very easy to accomplish. And we probably don't see that much stories of men accomplishing in our culture, for example, and probably in the Indian culture as well, accomplishing that kind of balance. So this is what my hope for you today is that you reflect on that and you reflect, especially if you are a man in your family, you reflect about how much involvement you have with your kids. So very sensitive topic. It could be simple and you just are driving and listening, or it can be so touchy and feeling. So take care of yourself. Listen at your own pace and just drop the audio, come on later, do whatever, but please listen because this is one of the best topics for me. Hi, Melvin. How are you?
Good, Carmen. So good to be here. Thank you for having me on.
I am so happy. So Melvin is a psychologist, is a PhD in psychology, and he has been trained as a psychologist by working with directly victims of the 9/11, by working with soldiers with PTSD, by working with other psychologists in helping them to put their own private practice. Melvin has a podcast that even if you are not a psychologist, you will love to listen. It's directed to psychologists. It's Selling the Couch. And in this podcast, he already passed the 600,000, 650,000 downloads. Yeah, in 4 years. Is that correct, Melvin?
That is correct. Somehow that has happened. Yeah, and
of course. Whoever listens to your podcast will understand immediately why. So he has a bachelor in psychology and a PhD in psychology, and he's from Kerala, India. He was born in Kerala. And how old you were when you came to the United States, Melvin?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I had just finished first grade in Kerala, and then we moved right after between my first and second grade year. So when I moved to the US, my entire second grade year, I took ESL classes as well. So
yeah, wow. So one of our wonderful immigrants, and of course, first generation, yeah, in this country. Mm. Yeah, wow. Well, tell us a little more about yourself and especially your baby.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for this opportunity. As Carmen mentioned, I'm a licensed psychologist here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I do a little bit of everything in terms of clinical work as well as selling the couch, as Carmen mentioned. And in a more recent season of my life, we just had our baby daughter. She is actually 7 months as we record this, and so for me, it's been a learning process. She was actually a NICU baby, so she was 7 weeks early. Uh-huh. So I'm a big planner, and I had planned, and she was supposed to come in mid-September. And I had, all these things planned for the business, and she decided to show up in July. So it's been a process, I think, trying to learn and figure things out. A lot of humility and a lot of humbling, and so I'm excited to just share and have an authentic conversation.
Wow. Yeah, I have been somehow witnessing your process with your baby ever since the difficult time when she decided to come and all of these days, and sometimes you don't sleep. And so it, I guess, it's just a double full-time job. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. I think I was, to be honest, like I think I was very naive toward parenthood. Like I know that naturally I'm nurturing and I'm like grateful that I have that part of my personality, but I also just thought, oh, because I'm that, this parenthood, like I can figure it out and navigate it, and it shouldn't be that hard. And it's definitely been challenging. And I think it's been challenging on the level of also of trying to have an established business, and then the baby comes and now you're trying to figure out what your new normal is as a business owner, as a parent, as a spouse, and all of these different roles.
Yeah. And I don't know why I can imagine more women sitting in a social gathering, women sitting and talking about how it is and sharing these best practices and all of this. Yeah. But I don't know why I cannot imagine men sitting and talking about this. Does this happen?
So it's a great question, because I have actually had conversations with several of my guy friends in this season about this, that like at least in my experience, it doesn't happen a lot unless you really have a good relationship with one of your guy friends, and then you ask. Even for me, like there's been like I feel like periods of a lot of silent suffering, a lot of like, who do I turn to?
Mm-hmm.
And even, just interesting intersections around my own role as a man, uh, parenting, and what do I think about that, and how is all of this evolving? So the short answer is I think there definitely isn't. I think women are much better relationally in terms of having these conversations, and I feel like, at least in my experience, it's been hard to find um, a place where men can have those conversations and you can ask those questions.
When I met, which is now my husband, Vince, one of my friends, I have a friends who they are a couple. The husband of that couple say to my now husband, yeah, well, let's talk about how you can help Carmen through her dissertation. Talk about what does mean, yeah. And he had a conversation with him, and Vince is so sweet. He just listened. Yeah, he did an amazing job when I was doing the dissertation. He was just a caretaker. And then when we got married, he came. When we got our house, he came and he walked through the house, my friend, and teach Vince. Not that Vince needed to be taught, but it teach him how to take care of the house, what to change, and whatever. And it has been so beautiful act of love that is, in a way, like I care for you, yeah, care for you as a couple. And I wish somebody everywhere, that a father that is having a baby, somebody come and say, here, let me tell you, yeah, this is what does mean to be caring for a baby.
Yeah, I mean, what a beautiful image. Gosh, yeah, it's interesting. This is actually one of the things that I want to now like sign up for. So, and I think this is a rarity, but it made me think as we're talking. The hospital we actually delivered our baby has a support group called Dad Lab, and it's meant for dads at various stages, and I believe they meet monthly. And it just reminded me I have to get going on that, because I do think, like, parenting is not meant to be done in isolation. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned.
Yes, It's not, even though it calls for isolation because the baby requires a lot of time. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Tell me how heavily you are involved in the everyday activities.
Yeah. So I think for me, I was very intentional in wanting to be very involved. Part of this was because my own father was very involved in my life when I was younger. My mom actually, my mom's a nurse, and so we were living in India at the time. And when I was around 2, my mom, just because the work opportunities and stuff in the Middle East were a lot better, she actually decided to work in Saudi Arabia. And I can't imagine the amount of like courage it took my parents to be apart like that. So my dad actually ended up playing a big role in raising me because he and I lived in India still. And so as I became a dad, I think I thought a lot about what I wanted. And so currently what I do is the vast majority of the feedings, the diaper changes, getting up at night. I was working Monday through Friday, and then when the baby came, just because I knew she was preemie, and fortunately she's doing great, but I actually took Fridays off, and it's just daddy daughter day, and those are days that we spend the day together, we play, she takes naps. I'm sterilizing bottles and figuring out all of that stuff. And now the weather's starting to get a lot warmer. So what I'm most looking forward to, especially as she gets older, is that we do like little activities. So go to the library, go to the coffee shop. In all of these little activities, what I want to do is like really have, I realize how important a bond is, especially between a father and a daughter. And in all of these activities, I think I want to like keep strengthening that bond. So,
And I'm taking advantage that you're a psychologist with this question. What are the psychological benefits you observe for you, your wife, of course the baby, but for you and your wife, what are the psychological benefits? And of course the baby.
Yeah, great question. So I feel like us, definitely, I think there was a period of like, we had to figure stuff out, but I think we as a couple have bonded a lot more because for me, I'm not seeing this as this is my wife's role to take care of this baby, right? And I see it this is more of our role. So she, for example, like she's pumping. Our plan is for her to pump during the first year, and so she has to pump kind of throughout the day, and so it's just practically not possible for her to be pumping and then take care of the baby, right? And so, I think me just handling some more of the baby responsibilities, I think it's helped strengthen our bond and helped strengthen our marriage. I think going through this whole NICU experience together, I think it's really taught us how strong we are as people, and how strong we are as a couple, and how much in a way that we need each other because like neither one of us are perfect, but we have our own unique strengths. And so when we can combine both of those elements, I think we are better parents to our daughter, so, and then I would say with our daughter, the special bond that she feels like, I remember in like intro psych classes, you would read about attachment and all these different things, right? And, how would a baby respond if they have a secure attachment? And I would read that stuff back then and was not a parent. And now I start to see this stuff. And, for example, when my wife walks in through the door, my daughter can already hear when the key starts to turn. She'll like just move her head that way. And as soon as she comes in, like she just gets so happy, when in the morning, which we can talk about this a little bit later, because this is like one of my most favorite times of the day. But in the morning, she's in her bassinet. She's in the room with us. And she is, in the night when she's hungry, she will cry. But at that 6 o'clock time, she knows mommy and daddy just need to sleep for like an extra hour. So she will play by herself in the bassinet. But as soon as you go over the bassinet and she sees you, I mean, she just like lights up and is just so happy. So I see that that bond because she recognizes us. She knows she's secure enough to be able to play. She knows mom and dad are there. So I think these are the little things that we've noticed sort of.
Wow. And she knows that you guys need to sleep a little longer.
Yes, somehow miraculously. Although I wish you would figure that out
earlier.
We're working on that. So
I am a daughter of two involved parents. And the reason probably being in a Mexican culture, it was not the norm. I recognize that my father was different than many men in my family and the culture. But the reason is that they lose two children before me. So I was the third one. They were so afraid that they would lose me also. Yeah. So now as an adult, oh my God, it makes so much difference, Melvin. I cannot imagine my life without my dad being involved. Yeah, then my dad taking care that I eat well, or picking me from school, even when I was in high school, picking me from school or something. Not as involved as you are, because I don't know if you realize that, but you are a privileged guy in the sense that you can take Fridays off. Yeah. And you can arrange your life and well, I will take privilege loosely because you work so hard for that privilege. Yeah. But my father needed to leave at 6 a.m. and come at 6:30 p.m. in the night, working, painting houses. And he will sit with me and do the math with me or read stories to me. We didn't have electricity, but he will storytelling. Yeah. Under a candle, the life of a candle. So it really helped me to be the woman I am now. It really did. This is why I admire so much your job and your dedication to balance these two parts of your life.
Yeah. Man, I didn't know this about you. And I so appreciate you saying that, because, I'm so like early in this journey, and, and I have all of these hopes and dreams for her. And, but it's neat to hear how, like, a tangible example of how it's impacted you as you've become an adult.
Yes, definitely. So you are doing something so profound for your daughter. Definitely. Wow, maybe I never wanted to cry in an episode.
You have me tearing up. I think just sort of just being authentic. I think when I first started the business, I was so naive because all I thought about was how much income can this bring in, right? And I think as I've matured a little bit, and I think especially as I become a dad, I realized that just having income is not sufficient to have a happy household. And so, and in fact, and this is even a harder realization for me because I'm such a, like, I have to be really careful because my parents instilled such a strong work ethic in me, and I'm so grateful for that. But I also have to be cautious about that because I can get so wrapped up in work that I can just go on it, right? But I think it's made me realize that, at some point, no income, like if I'm working all the time and doing all of these different things, and again, I to your point about privilege, like I fully recognize that, and I think I'm like very aware of that. But I realize that if I do all of these things and I'm not physically there for my daughter, right? But I give her all these financial things, like, I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like that's a good trade-off.
Yeah. And very interestingly, Melvin, this is what I see in the families that I work with. Because they come from sometimes very humble or very low income background, and then they come to the United States, and it's a little more easier to get the car, they go into the casino, blah, blah, blah. They tend to believe that getting the best tennis shoes or the expensive iPad or whatever for their children is they are better parents, and they truly believe that. No joke, they are truly believing that. So when we start working in therapy, one thing that I always dig into is how the income and how the leisure time is in their family. And sometimes they have 2-3 jobs to be able to afford all of this. Yeah. And we talk. It's a point where we talk. It's like, what do you want in 10 years from now from your children? Because then the children grow up alone. Yeah. The parents are all the time working. So it is a very hard balance. Yeah. And you kind of touch in the next question a little bit. Maybe you want to say something else about the challenges about try to balance the work and family life. Or maybe we already did.
Yeah, no, I can definitely share more. I think one other realization I've had is this idea of like really like balance is very elusive, especially when you have a young child, right? Because, take for example, the other day I had grand plans during the day to, to block out a section of time to work on some business related tasks, right? But turned out night before, baby girl decided she wanted to wake up every 3 hours. And and so I'm, going on 5.5 hours of sleep. I'm exhausted the next day. And so I can't function or be as productive as I like, And so I think one of the challenges has been, and this really is hard for someone, and I think a lot of your listeners will resonate with this because like we're really hard workers, and we have sort of that immigrant mentality, right? That there are seasons of life where you can't do things as efficiently or as fast as you used to be able to. And it's really hard not to personalize that and not to like compare where you are now to what you used to be able to do.
Yeah, it is very hard. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we have Brenda. Everybody knows Brenda, at least by her voice, which is here taking care of the cameras. We had an interview with somebody that is famous in Spain, a guy, Cristobal Amo. And we were scheduling the next interview. And Brenda is a mother of 2 children. Then Brenda say, can we make it half an hour later? Because I am a mother. Yeah? And please, I can deliver my children to school. I can drive my children. And he was so sweet. He said, great, because I can take care of my daughter. Yeah. And it was instant. I was so afraid to ask this adjustment of a schedule, but he said, yeah, I have a 10-year-old daughter and I want to take care of her. And so it was like an instant communication. Isn't that so beautiful that we could manage our business sometimes around and say, I really didn't sleep. Let's make it 1 hour later or something. It will that be beautiful, yeah?
Yeah, it's such a deep way of like caring for one another, like you said earlier,
Yes. And to tell you the truth today, I was really like, it may happen that Chloe didn't let Melvin sleep and we need to schedule. Yeah, it is life. Yeah.
Yeah, she slept in for a couple of 4-hour stretches, so I'm good.
Yeah, good. What you will say to men who are sensitive about being seen badly in their culture, about cultural taboos, when they get involved with their children?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one is like, I understand on some level because even as we are talking about this, there is this part of me inside. I'm like, man, I'm not really following sort of the typical sort of male, expectations around career and sort of parenting and all of these things. And so I think one is that they're just acknowledging that there are going to be taboos, and any time that we step out of something that's different and that's out of the norm, it's not easy, and I think a lot of times for me, I feel like I get like one step forward and it's like 3 steps back, because I'm like constantly trying to navigate this. And so I think the other piece I would just say is, I mean, culture is such a powerful thing because we've talked privately, like the Indian culture also is very sort of strong in terms of patriarchy, like a lot of sort of traditional gender roles. And so I think the thing I try to remind myself is I love my culture and I respect it, but I also like want to be aware of sort of my life, because we all get one life and we get to decide of how we want to shape it. And so I just try to remind myself to appreciate and understand culture and understand where those taboos come from and realize that we do have the opportunities to shape things how we want.
Wow, Melvin, that's so beautiful because I was thinking that you will go like, yes, do it. Yeah. But no, it's actually sensitive. Yeah.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
actually, wow. We try to do our best in respecting our culture. Yeah.
Mhm.
And wow, I never thought it that way. It's true.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, just even like a practical example, like, I mean, honestly, like sometimes I still struggle with telling some of like, especially like my guy friends that I take Fridays off to watch our daughter. I mean, when I tell them, they're usually excited, but there is this part of me, like, I'm like, like, what are they going to think of me? Or, are they going to think I'm not a hard worker? You know, those kind of things. And I think especially also like cross generationally, right? Like what will like
Mhm.
my parents' generation or my grandparents' generation think?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Wow. Now you made me think about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's, in that sense, we have it easier as women that, yeah, mom is going to take care of the children, so cannot attend the party or cannot do something now, or we get a little more understanding. We want to work hard and do everything, yeah, but we get a little more understanding.
Mm.
And I hope men in our culture get more understanding when they haven't had a night of sleep or they need to feed the baby and can be late for a meeting or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because I think in a way, I feel like when we don't do that, we're just hurting one another.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for saying that. That's true. I need to ask because I can see I can see how it's shaping. I can tell you that it changed my experience. I was a mother of a stepmother.
Mm.
So I want to ask for you, has becoming a father helping you as a psychologist? Do you see something different now?
Yeah. I think the biggest when you asked that question, the first thought that I had was when I was in grad school and through these trainings, you learn a lot about like family therapy and family dynamics. It's a
Mhm.
whole different ball game when you are actually in the middle of it and you realize like how complicated life is complicated as is, and then it gets infinitely more complicated when you bring a child or a stepchild into the dynamic, right? Because there are elements you can't control. There are there's all of these sort of gender stereotypes and things that we're talking about that come up. And um, for me, I think as a psychologist, more than anything, I think it's this profession humbles me every single day because I realize the more I learn, the less I know. And I also realize how little I know,
Mhm.
and how just quickly things can, how quickly and complex things are. So.
Yeah. Wow. This has been an amazing conversation. Is there anything through our conversation that you think we left out? Would you want to add?
Well, I think the only other thing is, and we can go as deep because I'm open in talking about this, but like I think one of the most difficult things actually has been I've actually gone So right now I'm dealing with this, which is like I'm dealing with some insomnia, which I've never had in my life. And I think it's related to the sleep deprivation because you're literally sleeping 3 hours, get up to do a feed, half an hour, burp change the baby, burp, put her down. And then I'm trying to go back to sleep. And it's like I'm so wired. And then I think what's now happened is I've had definitely like periods of both depression and anxiety. And I think it's a lot of times is related to the sleep deprivation because then the next day I'm exhausted and I can't do the things that I used to be able to do in the way that I want to. So I think that's the only thing I sort of wanted to just share because we're talking about these things and the challenges of parenthood. But I feel like this element of the mental health and the toll that it takes on parents just in general is something we don't often talk about, especially in these early stages.
A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a family and the father didn't sleep because they have a baby. And the father didn't sleep. He was taking care of the baby and he's in a heavy cold. And I asked the father, will you consider not going to work in a day like that? Yeah. And he looked at me and he answered, but I am the father. And it was so sweet. When he looked at me and he was like, how can I even consider that? Yeah. And yeah, I look at him and I say, exactly. This is why, because you are the father. Yeah. And it was so beautiful moment because he was like, oh, yeah. And of course, it was a whole conversation about how you can make up for a day of losing income and blah, 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 and everything. Yeah. So it's just, if we think about, I want to do that. I want to take care of myself. I want to do everything I need to because I am the father. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Wow. Melvin, it has been such a pleasure. And I really hope that this episode goes through the heart of many men out there.
I hope so too, Carmen. I think these are conversations I think especially we need to keep having, because they're important.
Yes, this is the Daddy Love episode.
Sounds good. Daddy Love, I like it.
Yes, I like it. Thank you, Melvin. And thank you for everything you have done for me, for my podcast. And I consider you the father of my podcast because you taught me how to be a podcaster. Thank you for everything. See, you are fathering also when you are working.
That's very sweet. You're so welcome, Carmen. I'm grateful for you and grateful for our friendship.
Thank you. And for the listeners, please share this episode. Especially if you are a guy, share with other guys, please. And if you are a mother, just put it out there. Put it in the car when you are driving with your partner, with your husband, with the father of your children or any children for this purpose. Please share and stay tuned with us because I am going to take the same topic with your permission, Melvin. I'm going to take this same topic in Spanish. Yeah, or I am going to look around for a psychologist who can share that topic in Spanish as well. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you and bye for now.
We have ended one more episode of Emotions in Harmony. See you the next one when Dr. Carmen Roman will help us to have a more fulfilled life caring for ourselves and the ones we care for. Meanwhile, visit www.emotionsinharmony.com to see the show notes, subscribe, and enjoy more content.